WWE has a monumental John Cena problem on its hands, one that transcends a simple heel turn and digs into the company's chronic inability to understand how to book a true villain out of its most decorated star. On paper, a heel John Cena should be a dream scenario. It's the fantasy that sections of the WWE fan base begged for since the mid-2000s. It's a character reinvention that, handled properly, could have drawn comparisons to Hollywood Hogan or corporate rock, but instead, what a true top heel should look and feel like. WWE's version of heel Cena is already collapsing under the weight of its own contradictions, bland storytelling, and the stubborn refusal to truly cut ties with the safer image the company has crafted for Cena for decades. The first crack showed itself almost instantly. Cena's betrayal of Cody Rhodes, but instead of capitalizing on that momentum with a build-up drenched in personal animosity, chaotic confrontations, and a clear shift in Cena's in-ring approach, WWE fell into its familiar trap of over-scripted, meta-laden promos that talk around the core issue without ever diving into it viscerally. Cena's character motivations, though layered on the surface, have quickly felt hollow in execution. The promos became philosophical essays about fan fickleness and legacies, but the actual actions never matched the venom of the words. Heel Cena's matches are booked nearly identically to his face matches. There's little to no shift in wrestling style. There's no methodical cruelty, no sense of dominance where he toys with his opponent in ways that make the crowd seethe. It's the same John Cena moveset, the same timing and cadence, with slightly more smug posturing. That's not heel wrestling, that's just a face acting snarky. Contrast that with successful heel turns in wrestling history. When Hulk Hogan went Ininao, his entire moveset slowed down. He raked backs, poked eyes, and stalled matches with cowardly tactics. The Rock in his corporate champion era made the people's elbow look condescending and disrespectful. Even Roman Reigns during his tribal chief reign changed everything about his body language, pacing, and move economy. Cena has done none of that. He still rallies the crowd mid-match, still goes into his signature shoulder blocks, still teases the five-knuckle shuffle with barely any sarcastic tweak. WWE wants to have its cake and eat it too. They want the merch sales and mainstream appeal of John Cena intact while pretending he's a dangerous heel for storyline purposes. The WrestleMania 41 build-up exposed this flaw further. Cena versus Cody Rhodes should have been a molten, blood feud level rivalry. Rhodes, as the heartbroken hero, robbed of his family's story, had ample motivation to go to dark places to try and get revenge. Cena, as the bitter veteran sabotaging the next generation's moment, had the perfect platform to be merciless and manipulative. Instead, the segments were sanitized and formulaic. Face-to-face promos where both men stood apart with microphones for 20 minutes replaced physicality. Cena cut long-winded soliloquies about being overlooked, but then didn't back it up with actions that matched the nastiness. There was no repeated assaults on Cody's friends, no storyline injuries, no backstage ambushes, no interference in Rhodes' matches that cost him momentum, orchestrating chaos the way Roman Reigns did with the Bloodline. Cena's heel run feels like an aesthetic change. The actual WrestleMania 41 match was equally symptomatic. Cena defeated Cody clean enough that it didn't even maximize heel heat. He won through interference, sure, but the interference was tame and lacked that overwhelming, suffocating force that would make the audience feel robbed on a grand scale. There was no symbolism, no destroyed Crossroads weight belt, no Dusty Rhodes taunts that would have made the loss personal. It was just a moderately dirty finish, quickly wrapped up and brushed aside. Post-match, Cena celebrated like a heel, but without the pageantry or cruelty that would cement the moment as unforgettable villainy. He posed, smirked, and walked off. The storytelling told us he was evil, but his actions looked like the same Cena who won championships 10 years ago. WWE's refusal to let Cena fully embrace dirty tactics, psychological warfare, and ruthless control over narratives has neutered what could have been an era-defining heel run. The problem compounded further when WWE lazily slotted Randy Orton into Cena's post-Mania program. A Cena-Orton feud in 2025 should be a marquee main event attraction built on 2 decades of layered history. Instead, it feels like an uninspired rerun of 2009 with none of the freshness or creativity needed to justify the matchup. Orton, though still a credible star, has been inserted as a challenger who cuts generic "I'm back and I want the title" promos. There's no deep dive into their shared past, no references to their 2009 Iron Man match, No callbacks to their unification bout in 2013. No acknowledgement of how both men dominated eras side by side, but in drastically different ways. Cena and Orton have barely interacted in meaningful ways since Elimination Chamber. Their confrontations have been hollow stare-downs, predictable tag matches. WWE's creative laziness is suffocating the program. More critically, Cena's heel character doesn't contrast sharply enough with Orton's tweener persona. Orton is a natural at walking the line between face and heel, but he thrives when his opponent forces him to commit. A truly despicable Cena could have dragged out an unhinged, vengeful Viper who shows flashes of his old legend killer tactics to match Cena's depravity. Instead, we're getting the most watered-down version of both. Cena is barely more villainous than Orton, so their interactions lack narrative tension. There's no escalation week to week. No personal stakes have been layered in beyond, "I want the title." That's not compelling storytelling for two men who have shared the ring more times than arguably any two top stars of their generation. The result is apathy. Fans aren't booing Cena because they hate him. They're sitting quietly because they don't care. It doesn't help that WWE's production and branding are still handcuffed to Cena's marketability. Even in heel mode, Cena's entrance remains bombastic, with minimal tweaks. The Titantron still flashes his name with heroic fanfare. The merchandise machine churns out new, franchise-branded shirts that toe the line between cool villain and anti-hero iconography, much like NWO shirts did, but without committing to either. Cena is still sent to do mainstream media in a relatively sanitized way, which undercuts the illusion that he's a hated man. WWE doesn't seem to understand that true money in a heel Cena run comes not from maintaining old revenue streams, but from creating a new era of red-hot baby faces who chase the monster champion. Instead, their booking remains timid, unsure whether to let Cena run rampant as a full villain or keep him as a wink-wink. Cool bad guy who sells merch and draws ratings safely. That indecisiveness has infected even Paul Heyman's involvement. Heyman, one of the greatest mouthpieces in wrestling history, should have been the perfect accomplice to a heel Cena run, yet his promos have been strangely muted compared to his work with Brock Lesnar or Roman Reigns. Instead of hyping Cena as an unstoppable force of destruction or the Sith, Cena hasn't weaponized the faction in creative ways either. There are no hostage situations, no systemic domination of the locker room, no angles where he forces officials to bend the rules or threatens to walk away with the title. Without those layers, Cena's heel world feels two-dimensional. The core of the issue is WWE's persistent fear of damaging the John Cena brand. They still treat Cena like a corporate ambassador first, and a wrestling character second. True heel work is messy. It risks short-term commercial backlash to create long-term storytelling dividends. WWE won't risk that with Cena, so what we're left with is a toothless villain whose bark is louder than his bite. Compare this to Roman Reigns' tribal chief era, where Roman sat out media appearances, changed his aesthetic, isolated himself from crowd pandering, and leaned fully into his delusion of dominance. Cena hasn't committed to any of that. He still plays to the hard camera, still salutes the crowd, albeit mockingly, still participates in charity-friendly segments. That contradiction kills immersion. The longer this continues, the more it erodes fan investment. The hardcore audience wanted a Cena heel turn not for novelty, but for catharsis. They wanted to see the man who dominated their screens for 15 years with an iron grip finally give in to his worst instincts and become the monster they booed relentlessly in 2006 to 2010. They wanted karmic payoff. Instead, WWE has produced a hollow cosplay of that idea. Surface-level heel traits painted over the same corporate-friendly foundation. Without a shift in ring style, booking philosophy, or character interactions, Cena's reign will stagnate rapidly. Instead, they've served up a cartoon villain with one foot still in Saturday morning programming. If WWE doesn't course correct fast, by letting Cena dismantle baby faces ruthlessly, and forcing challengers to reach desperate new heights to topple the tyrant, this run will go down as one of the biggest missed opportunities in modern wrestling history. They turned heel too late, too safe, and too shallow. The John Cena problem isn't that he turned bad. It's that WWE is too afraid to let him be bad enough to matter.